It's good to be here, very, very much so. Look forward to being here and sharing some things about the children's home and being able to preach this morning too. But I want to say, I give Brad a lot of credit for me being at the children's home for 32 years now. There was a time that I was probably kind of looking at maybe moving on, and Brad in his red pickup truck just kind of cornered me, I think. He didn't take me out in the country for 30 miles and say, you're going to have to stay or whatever. But he was kind enough not to do that and drop me off if I didn't stay. But it was, that was a pivotal moment in my life, Brad, in regards to you encouraging me and to stay there and work through some things. And you're aware of that, but it was just, I hadn't been there for a year, and I'm so thankful Brad did that. And
he didn't tell you that I was clinging to his ankles.
Well, part of it was I just knew it wasn't going to go anyplace, and and I never wanted to be the director of a children's home, and that's kind of where. And I didn't want to public speak, and I did not want to fundraise, and that just. That's what Brad was trying to encourage me to become the executive director of the children's home. So, but God has his ways of working through people, doesn't he? I think you have to trust in that. But I'm thankful that he was a part of that, and Marion too. We just count them as dear friends, and thankful for being here this morning. Let's bow a little prayer. Father, we rejoice in knowing you, and that you want a relationship with us. We're thankful for that. Father, you give us hope and encouragement, and may our eyes always be on you and focus on your love for us and your purpose for us, and how you want to use us to spread your word and to glorify you. Be with me as I share some things about the children's home at this time, and we're thankful for opportunities to serve you. In Christ's name, amen. Amen. Well, the last time I spoke here was in 2008. That would have been about 16 years ago. I think Walter, I just was reminded Walter came here to share some things about the children's home. So might be a little bit redundant, but probably from a different angle in regards to how it's presented. Like Brad, I grew up in Montana, and I grew up in a little town called Fairview, Montana, right on the border of North Dakota, and Montana. My dad was full-blood Norwegian. My mother was full-blood German. And I'm thankful for my parents in regards to the way they raised me. And dad was a machinist, a mechanic, and a welder. And, I learned all of those things when I grew up. My mom was, she was the, what I would say the main disciplinarian of my brother and I. I mean, she was the one that, was home taking care of us boys. And Dad was, off work and doing his work and that. But Mom was, the description of her was, was characteristic of Germans, at least in the North. They're industrious, hard workers, and that fit Mom to a T. And she worked us boys like crazy. I mean, we didn't have time to get into trouble. I mean, it was, even though we did do that. And Dad, spent time in regards to teaching us all these other traits and stuff. I'm just thankful for both of them. But now, we had a little dog. It was a Chihuahua, Punky, about that tall, and that he was just a buddy to us all. Mom, like I said, she was the main disciplinarian, and I'm going to talk about discipline here. And I want to look at discipline as a broader area, not just spanking, but there's teaching and guiding and whatever. But I remember getting a lot of spankings when I was young. Did anybody here have spankings when they grew up? Yeah, I mean, that's kind of one of those things that today, it's, oh, we don't want to spank. But anyway, I grew up in a generation where we were spanked. And Mom had her leather strap on the back of the bedroom door all the time, ready for us to get a spanking. Whenever we needed it, we usually needed it. And Punky did not like us to have a spanking. She would have the belt and she'd be spanking us, but Punky would be down there grabbing that belt, and just keeping us from getting a spanking, And I was, 10, 11, whatever, did something wrong. She'd always tell us, don't wrestle in the house. I always wrestled older brother, get him in a scissor lock, and it was just a great thing for me to get one over my brother. You know, he was 3.5 years older than I was. And anyway, it was time for me to have my spanking, I guess. You know, Mom went to go look for the belt, and it wasn't on the back of her bedroom door. And she stood, Randy, do you know where my belt is? And I said, no, I don't know where it is. And I said, I thought, oh no, I'm in trouble for what I already did. And now I'm in trouble because she thinks I hid the belt, you know. She looked all over, and she looked underneath the bed, and there, under the bed, that leather trap was just chewed to pieces. And he just chewed it all up. And she said, that dog chewed up my belt. But that's when I understood that dogs are man's best friend. I never had more spankings after that, you know. So. And I make light of all of that because, I mean, I can look back and look at it, and I'm thankful for what my parents did to raise me. I'm grateful for that. And I remember going to my mom when I was 25 years old, and I said, Mom, thank you for raising me the way you did. And I remember her just looking on the floor down for a bit, and then she looked up at me and she says, you know, Randy, that was the nicest compliment you could have ever given me. And I think that if we love our children, we will discipline our children. You know, now again, I'm going to broaden up more than just spanking as punishment. I mean, there's training and teaching and guiding and mentoring. I mean, there's all of that's part of the discipline. But I was thankful for her being the main disciplinarian. Now, if Dad was called in, he had a look to kill. I knew I straightened up real quick. I mean, it was a matter of Mom couldn't handle my brother and I mean, it was amazing how we could change our attitude, our behavior, and we would do what we were supposed to do, you know. But I want to talk about God disciplines us too, doesn't he? You know, if we take a look at Hebrews 12, so open the Bible to Hebrews 12. Beginning in Hebrews 12, it talks about, you know, kind of paints this picture of this big amphitheater of people in this amphitheater, and they're rooting us on to run this race. And you know, we think of it, you know, it's the audience doing that, but it's heroes of faith. If you go back to chapter 11, heroes of faith, people that have lived a life serving God. It'd be like Abel, Enoch, Abraham, Isaac, and Joseph, and Moses. And you get the picture in regards to their lives are testimonies to us in regards to encouraging us to run the race of serving God. And their lives are that. And then it goes on in regards to, you know, Jesus, who was the ultimate testimony, his life in regards to him even being crucified on the cross. But his words of encouragement that we continue to run the race. So I'm going to read that first part, and then the second part, I want some of your input back from how from 4 on may impact our lives or has impacted your lives. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinful men, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. Now from 4 on to 11, this is what I want you to reflect upon, maybe how you were raised, how you were disciplined, or what this passage may mean. In your struggles against sin, you have not yet resisted to the point of shedding your blood. And you have forgotten that word of encouragement that addresses you as sons. My son, do not make light of the Lord's discipline, and do not lose heart when he rebukes you, because the Lord disciplines those he loves. And he punishes everyone he accepts as a son. Endure hardship as discipline. God is treating you as sons. For what son is not disciplined by the Father? If you are not disciplined, and everyone undergoes discipline, then you are illegitimate children and not true sons. Moreover, we have all had human fathers who disciplined us and we respect them for it. How much more should we submit to the Father of our spirits and live? Our fathers disciplined us for a little while as they thought best, but God disciplines us for our good, that we may share in his holiness. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. What are some things that you can pull from this passage? Who does God discipline?
Those he loves.
Those he loves. You know, isn't it? When you take a look at things, when you go through some hardships, as this passage talks about in regards to God is disciplining us in many ways in regards to if we have the right attitude toward it and how we apply it and how we can grow and learn from it, right? Anything else? That's good. How many of us want to be disciplined? Nobody? Okay, let me rephrase that. How many of us know we need to be disciplined? Yeah, I think that we all raised our hand and realized that we all need to be disciplined, but, you know, as it says, it's painful, you know, but there's some fruit that comes from that and how important it is to be disciplined, you know, and children being disciplined. What else? What happens if we're not disciplined? What does the Bible say here? If we are not disciplined, if we're not trained, we are
you're
what?
illegitimate and are not sons.
You're illegitimate and we're not sons. You know, I looked up the definitions, but yeah, you don't belong. You know, if you're illegitimate, you do not belong. There was no doubt in my mind whose eyes were on my brother and I at all times. I knew who I belonged to because they were watching what we were doing and making sure we were doing what we needed to be doing. But I knew I was belonged. There's security that comes along with that, isn't it? Anything else? You ever have a parent say, boy, this is going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you, you know? As a kid, you probably realize, yeah, sure, Dad. No, this is not going to, how is this going to hurt you? You know, if you're going to be a spanking. But it's hard sometimes to discipline your child because you know it creates a pain, whether it's physical or whether it's emotional. Or, it's hard to see your children struggle, isn't it, with pain? Yes, ma'am.
I was just going to say that when you receive that, even though you don't appreciate it at the time, you have respect for that person, for your parents, or
Right.
God,
Yeah.
for caring enough that they discipline you. You might have to be a little older, maybe, like you were when you went to your mom.
Yeah.
But we respect them for giving us that discipline.
How important it is that we respect the person that is, I want to say, authority figure. You know, I take a look at our world today. Do we have respect for our, a lot of authorities, especially parents? You see a lot of children growing up that don't have respect for their parents, and I think that's exactly where it comes from. They recognize there's an authority there. You know, does that relate to God too? God has set some limits for us, and if we don't respect that, then we don't respect God. But if you respect God's, His rules, I guess, from the Bible in regards to how He wants us to live, then it develops character in us, but we also understand Him as being the ultimate authority and how important that is. One of the things that I'm talking about in regards to children who come into the children's home, and I'll get into that. But I love this passage when you take a look at verse 11. And it says, later on, however, produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. Exactly what we're talking about. I see children coming into the children's home. Many have not had moms and dads, for one reason or another, not disciplining their children. There'd be a crisis, maybe mom wanting to be a buddy to the child versus really holding the child accountable. But I see children coming in because of the structure we have that offered, that it brings about security. And what I start seeing is that this righteousness and peace that comes about from that comes from the structure that we offer in helping the children, in times of need. So that's a lot of what I'm going to share about in regards to the children's home. Okay, we're located in Longmont, Colorado. So we have been there since 1960. I was executive director there for nearly 30 years, but this is Nick and Abby years. There was a 10-year succession plan for Nick to take my place, so he was assistant director, and he took over here a little over 2 years ago. And I volunteered to continue to, I said, I'd be glad to help out in regards to long distance traveling and visiting with churches and doing change can drives and food drives and things like that. So, but anyway, I just want to get a picture up there in regards to who the director is. We're located in Longmont. There are about 35 Brotherhood children's homes in the nation. A lot of people don't realize that we have that many children's homes in the United States. But we're the most northern, there's nothing north of us, there's nothing west of us as far as children's homes, as far as Church of Christ is supported. And we want to be a referral source to you. If you know of any children who have needs of that we can help out, we want to be an extension to the church. And so we want you to know about what services that we offer. Here's a picture. Go back here. We're in Colorado. Like I said, there are no other children's homes. I'll go back too far. There we go. So I network with the churches more, not so much California, maybe a little bit of northern Nevada. But if I go down to New Mexico, there's 3 children's homes, 1 in Kansas, 3 in Oklahoma, 9 in Texas, and then the rest are all spread out through the Bible Belt. That's where most of the children's homes are. And when I went down to Texas to try to gain support for the children's home, they were already supporting 3 or 4 congregations were supporting 3 or 4 children's homes. And so it kind of forced me to have to go north because there weren't any other children's homes, which really turned out to be a blessing. And working with the church. The only problem is that the churches are few and far between. I mean, there's a lot of miles that you have to go to network with all the churches. So most of the children's, the support comes from these states right here. In regards to, we are starting to have some support from Texas, but most of it come from the north and our community is what Brad had mentioned. A lot of times there's a question in regards to why are children placed here. So most come from troubled family situations. Pretty much all of them come from a broken home. That's just the reality of it. Abandonment issues, neglect, abuse. Nothing surprises us when we go into an interview with the children. In regards to learning what has taken place. And we've seen all kinds of, you name it, we've seen it in regards to what children have gone through. Most come from single parents. Most of the time it's a single mom. Dads are not involved. That's in their lives, and moms are trying to do the best they can. There's a lot of crisis that's going on in their life. They managed, we were licensed, we were down from 3 to 17, but we don't get very many referrals for children under 10. So our focus has been more like 10, 11 on up in regards to the age of the child coming into places. And we are right now getting anywhere from 4 to 6 calls a day for people seeking help for children. That's turning into about $2,000, people calling and wanting help for their children. And in 2019, it was 1,000. Here we're looking at 5 years later, now it's double that in regards to the number of children needing help. All of our kids are private placement. We do not take government support, so we don't take state-placed kids. We're pretty unique in that sense, and we will take children regardless of the parent to pay. That's where we raise support and we run on donations. We do require parents to contribute something to the care of their child. We don't want to drop their child off and not take care of the child. They need to be invested in their child. A lot of them, and then take a look at, what's the child going through. They're all wounded. That's kind of what we'll be talking about today in my sermon is more in regards to they're wounded when they come in. They're all angry. They're angry because they don't have a stable home environment. Say trauma, that's a big thing in regards to trauma-informed care because all the kids are gone through traumatic situations. Just a matter of placement at a children's home is traumatic. You can about imagine the trauma that goes along with that. Trust issues, they struggle with trust because they've been wounded and they have their walls up and they're protecting themselves. A few years ago, we met with a consultant just trying to decide in regards to what makes us unique, what makes us different. And we kept saying, well, we provide a deeper level of care. We provide, and he said, you keep saying that. What do you mean by that? So we referred back to Luke 2:52, where Jesus grew in wisdom, stature, and favor with God and man. So 4 major areas that we had strengthened our program in regards to helping them educationally. That would be the wisdom. Physically, having a family model of care with husband and wife teams. Physical and then spiritually, in regards to we're under the eldership of the Longmont Church of Christ. We feel like that's the backbone of what we do. And then socially, being able to helping children to work through their anger so that they can relate with man. I mean, so we address those 4 areas. So wisdom. In 2008, we have this at the beginning. The school is in the front of this building, and then the gym in the back. I'm going to go back to the school here. This is Janice, my wife. She started school in 1998. And we would send kids to the public school, and within 2 days, they were like magnets to other kids who were messing around and not doing well, coming from dysfunctional family situations. And they were like magnets, and we to these other kids. So they would skip class, or they're messing around and not focusing in on their educational abilities that they needed to be working on. So we started off in the basement. We were in the basement for 11 years. My wife, I think some kids called it the dungeon or something, or underground school, what it was. And we finally built an educational facility. This is in the gym area with the big building I showed you. As far as we started where we have, it's kind of a one classroom setting, but although there's about 4 different areas that they can have classes and breaking up and addressing the needs of the children. We have a prayer in the morning. Janice was teaching, it was start off a prayer in a Bible class every morning. And the kids, some of the kids would come in and say, Janice would say, well, we have a prayer every morning. Well, I don't pray. Well, we pray here, and he's, well, I don't have anything to pray about. Well, just think of something you're thankful for. Well, I'm not thankful for anything. I mean, most of the kids coming into the children's home are just, they're upset because they were pulled away from their friends, they're pulled away from their kid, their family. You can imagine what they're going through. That talks about the trauma there. But eventually what happens is the kids start praying, and they start praying about being thankful for certain things, and they hear prayers from others, and then they start praying about their families and talk about what's going on in regards to their family. Pray for the anger because of their parents, what they're going through. And Janice would come home and a lot of times and just say, you should hear some of the prayers that these kids are offering. And these are kids that may have not ever gone to church, they've never prayed before, but they're learning how to pray to God. And it's just interesting to watch them to transform in their lives. So this is another picture of the kids in our underground school. One of the things we wanted to do is measure, are we doing any, what are we doing in regards to educationally? So we come up with Janice has been doing, there was a pre-test we do before to find out where they are academically, and then we do a post-test after a year of school. And we found the average improvement was 3.7 grade levels in academic achievement in 1 year, which changes the whole life of the child in regards to outlook, in regards to feeling stupid and dumb, they can't do it. No, you can do it. You just have not had a good home life environment for them to grow. Anyway, I've had kids come up and say, Randy, I've got an A. I've never had an A before. You just know that they feel good about it because they see that they have that success and they can do that. One of the things I think the next slide is gonna be is that the national average for kids to graduate is like 84%. In the Colorado foster care system, the average child, I mean, there's only 24% that graduate from high school in the Colorado foster care system. At the children's home, if kids, we work hard to try to get kids back home after a year and a half of placement. But if they do stay through through their high school, I mean, we've had 100% that graduate with an accredited degree. So, we feel very good about that. Okay, I think I covered that. All right, let's go on to the next stature. One of the things that makes us unique in the sense that we still have a family model of care. A lot of agencies are shift workers where you have somebody coming in for 8 hours or 12 hours, and it's a new person every, with that rotation. But we want them to have a family environment as much as possible, and we hire members of the church and provide that family environment. So this is some of the older homes that, there we go, just kind of show you the campus. That was the first home that was built in 1963. We built this probably 7, 8 years ago, and we built it more like a habitat house. We got the community involved and we had people from Habitat. It wasn't a Habitat house per se, but there was a Christian church there that contributed $500,000 toward the building of this house. 250 cash, 250 was in labor that they wanted to help us to build this house. So they had a lot of their members. It was about a 2,300 member congregation, and they had their members go out and frame it and do a lot of the carpentry that was in building the house. And what was unique about that is that before we put the insulation up, before we put the sheetrock up, we had the kids go in and write scriptures and prayers all over the inside of all the walls of the house. And they spent 2.5 hours doing that. And that was really cool to see that because we didn't tell them what to write. So before we put all that sheetrock back up again, covered up the walls, it was like prayers to God for all the children who come into the children's home. And one of the girls that wrote, as you walk into the front door, she said, the first step is the hardest.
Oh.
Wow. You can only imagine a child coming into children's home, how hard that really is to come in to the children's home. But she went on, she was baptized, she was able to go back home. But you just realize that you just know there's so much more meaning in what she wrote there. And we all face that. Some of the things challenges that we have in life, that first step is the hardest stuff. Kind of goes back to that first step to become the executive director. Kind of like, no, that was the hardest. Brad was working hard on me on that one. I know that. And anyway, we had CrossFit trainers come out. They learned about our program. They come out and worked with our kids in CrossFit. And with COVID come, they kind of bowed out. But we have Devin, our director of professional services, he became certified, so we continue with CrossFit. And then Dustin takes them through the physical exercise and the physical challenge as a discipline, but then he turns it into a spiritual application in regards to some of the things that they may be going through in their life. So it's not just physical, but making spiritual application to their efforts and the hurdles that they have to overcome physically. And then here we take a look at in the gym. When we built this, we moved into the gym in 2008. We ran out of funds and we didn't have basketball goals. And I thought, well, we would just get some of the cheapy goals that you see in driveways, the ones that always blow over and get bent and whatever because the wind blows on them. So anyway, we called the Denver Nuggets Foundation and asked if would goals be a good thing to apply for on their foundation? And they says, oh, you guys called at the right time. We're getting rid of our practice gym goals. How about, would you guys like those? So these are the real things. I mean, so they delivered them, brought them out, delivered them, set them up. And they said, well, make sure you tell all the kids that Michael Jordan and Shaq and all those guys, they all dunked on these hoops, So we thought, wow, that's cool, So we would do that, for a number of years, but then now the kids are coming in, we say, yeah, Michael Jordan and Shaq, they all dunked on those hoops, and they'll look at you and say, who are they? It's kind of like, oh man, it just took the punch out of it, or what we were saying. So anyway, so then in growing in favor with God. Like I mentioned, we're under the eldership of the Longmont Church of Christ. That's the backbone of what we do. I mean, if we didn't have Christ in our program, then we're just like the rest of the secular agencies. And you take a look at the level of depth that we can provide for children to bring God into their lives, to help them to heal, is nothing that other secular agencies can do. And that's the added, one of the major things that we see in the depth of what we provide. I'll go on here in regards to, we have youth groups. We have 3-4 youth groups that come in every year. And they're mission trips. They come in and help out on campus, but then at night they do devotionals with our kids. And then this is like in a devotional setting where there's a campfire, and they lead spiritual things, with our kids and involving them, helping our kids to see other kids that are spiritually oriented and see there's another way of life that they may have never experienced. So this is some of the, of course, with going to church, they attend church with us on a regular basis. They're involved in youth activities. We feel like that's very, very important for them to be involved with that. And our kids, it's amazing how they get engaged rather quickly in regards to if they've never gone to church, that they get engaged with the youth activities and how important and impactful that is for our kids. Here's a group that came out last year, and again, there were some devotional thoughts, things like that we involved the kids in. Before COVID, we were baptizing 2/3 to 3/4 of our kids. When COVID came, it just put a stop to everything, because you can imagine some of our kids who have never gone to church, now they see church on TV or computer or whatever. I mean, it just didn't have the impact, and they were not going to youth activities. We're back normal again now, which now we're starting to see kids in regards to the baptisms that are coming about, because of seeing the spiritual growth from our kids, because they're involved in spiritual activities. In favor with man, we have a counseling program. This is Dustin with one of the kids. We do individual counseling on a weekly basis. We do group counseling 2-3 times a week, addressing group issues that we can pull the children in. One of the things that we wanted to also measure in regards to how effective are we in regards to our counseling and helping kids to work through the issues that they've had. We come up with this, found this assessment. It measures 16 areas of therapeutic concern. Measures school problems, family problems, depression, self-esteem, personal stress, confused thinking, guilt, father problems, aggression, disturbed thinking, mother problems, friend problems, memory loss, drug use, drug or alcohol use, and suicide. And so these kids come in and they do this self-assessment, so we know what areas we need to focus in on their therapeutic concerns. You take a look at here, the time of placement up here. We do the assessment upon discharge. This is really should be after a year that they're in our care. At the time of placement, 48% have 10 to 16 areas of therapeutic concern when they come into our care. You take a look at a year later, that green, none of them have 10 to 16 areas of therapeutic concern. And then at the time of placement here, you have 47% have 5 to 9 areas of therapeutic concern at the time of placement. But then you take a look at after a year, 17% have 5 to 9 areas of therapeutic concern. At the time of placement, there's 5% have 0 to 4 areas of therapeutic concern. After a year, take a look at how this has grown. Now we have 83% have 0 to 4 areas of therapeutic concern. So we know we're addressing the issues that the kids are struggling with, and we're making a difference. And that's part of that deeper level of care and what we want to provide as far as the services of helping these children. On campus, church and community, God has been so good. working at a children's home in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and seeing church support, things like that, and I take a look at regards to where we are, where churches are few and far between, similar to this size, how God has blessed us in so many ways. Grant Management Company, I probably shared this before, Grant Management Company built that office building for us, and one thing, we were just looking for carpet and doors. I mean, that's what we were looking for, but one thing led to another, to where they said, do you want us to build you a new office building? Yeah, okay, I was being satisfied with doors and carpet, and God drops this in, and I take a look at, we drew up plans, and it was 4,500 square foot building. And they looked at it and they said, well, we don't build anything that small. Can you make it bigger? Just kind of like, thank you, Lord. So we went to 6,000 square feet. Now we wish we would have made it bigger because we've outgrown it. Community, getting involved with the community. The more we got into the community, the more the community got to know us. When I first moved there, people would say, well, we know you're out there, but we don't know anything about you. And the more we got involved with the community, then we even had kids go out to community events, have tables and chairs and stuff, and people say, wow, your kids are neat kids, they're great, look at they're just good workers. And we started having them come out for business before hours. About 90 people would come out for the community business leaders. And we would have a breakfast. And this is one of the times that we had the business before hours. We provide the breakfast. They come out. We have the kids around. They get to tour the school and they interact with the kids. And one of the questions that's really interesting is, can we see one of the cottages? I mean, they're really curious in regards to knowing what does a cottage look like, because I know what's exactly going on. When you think of orphanages or children's homes, your mind goes back typically, this connotation in regards to pardon?
An institution.
An institution, rows of beds, rows of tables, and they go over and they come back. They say, wow, this is really neat. The kids are showing their rooms, and it just dispels that connotation in regards to what children's homes are all about. And it's amazing how the community has really warmed up to us to see what we do. During this event here, I had Will, one of the boys there. I said, do you mind sharing some things about what the children's home has done for you? And he said, yeah, I'll be glad to. So he was pretty physically aggressive the first couple of days. I mean, I think he punched a hole in the wall or whatever, angry. And I said, okay, I don't know if we can work with him, but he came around and he shared with the community, the business leaders. He's talked about how he worked through his anger, how he was able to go back to home to be with his dad, and then he went into, he says, and this is how I became a Christian. I started learning about God and how I was baptized and it was just, I said, go for it. Let the community know that we are spiritually oriented and that we provide another level of care compared to other agencies. And it was really neat. And today I have more people come up to me and say, we love coming out to business before hours to the children's home, because they can see what we're doing with the children. This is Brad will probably appreciate this one. We started having a lot of donated stuff from Walmart and other things that we had to get, it was kind of like just kept piling up. The more we got involved with the community, the more people donated to us. How do we turn this into cash? Because we had so much stuff coming in. So we had farm auctions. We'd line stuff up in rows, and the farm auctioneer would go along and just auction off whatever was donated. It grew to 8 or 9 hour days of auctions. We wore people out there, spent out. Habitat was coming out and buying three truckloads of our stuff, putting it in their thrift store. And then we were going to 2 days of auctions, so we did that. And I told the board, I said, I think we need to start a thrift store. Well, Brad will appreciate this because he was on our board. The board member said, we don't need to start a children's home, a thrift store. I don't shop at a thrift store. I mean, we were just shut down. I mean, it's like, okay, all right. So then it grew to, 2 days of auctions, and then we were going to go to 3 days of auctions because we just kept getting more and more stuff. And finally, Willie, he said, you know what? I think we need to start a thrift store. I said, yes, I think we need to. So we started a thrift store, opened one at 4,000 square feet. we realized that that was way too small because communities just kept bringing more stuff in and we had to turn down. We just didn't have enough room. So then we moved into this building, 12,000 square feet, and this is, um, we find 12,000 square feet is too small now. We need a bigger store, or we'd start another store because people come in, they say, hey, take whatever you want. If you don't want it, well, I'll take it over to Goodwill. I mean, the people just love what we do. And I had, it's just kind of interesting in regards to this. Is some pictures inside of it. There's a person told us the other day, he said he and his wife were walking in the store, and his wife was walking, going around, going, he says, what are you doing? He says, she said, well, this doesn't smell like a thrift store. We like a good reputation in regards to a clean store, but that has opened up more doors in regards to the community coming in. I just hear it, they just say, we love what you guys do. We donate to your store all the time. And God has blessed it. We were able to purchase that building. We rented it, and the taxes were going up from $26,000 to $40,000, $42,000. It was like that. And we were trying to purchase the building, and we were finally able to purchase the building. And if we purchase the building, then we don't have to. It's a non-profit if it's in our name, so we can save that $40,000 of taxes, which really goes well toward the payment of the stores. God has blessed us. They're doing a food run. Here's the Coloradans. They have been helping us for years. They have a car show, and they donate the money to us anyway. They ask it, can we do a car show at the children's home? Because the city was charging for park fees for the show. They had to hire extra police, extra garbage crews, and it was just cutting into their profit. So we have about 240 cars that come in here. About 450 people come to the car show. We have a clay shoot that's in July. If you'd like to get a team together, we have a benefit auction, the gala, which is actually going to be next weekend, which is a fun event. We had about 528 registered before COVID. We're kind of rebuilding. We're probably in the 300s now that will be coming to that. And it's a fun event, transitional living program. We realized had kids that graduated from high school that needed a transitional living program and we looked at a house south of the home, but we ran into all kinds of snags with buying it. Then we ran into this apartment complex in regards to perfect for kids that graduate from high school. And we got to looking at it. We called on it. Attorney was handling it. He said, well, the guy has 3 cash offers for it. He said, I don't know why he's not willing to take any of them, but he's all glad to show it to you. Well, anyway, we found out it was a member of the church that worships with us that owns it. And when he found out that we were interested in it, he says, you guys are getting it. By the time we closed on it, he had 7 cash offers and one for $150,000 more than what he was asking. And he said, you guys are getting it. And of course, he made a nice donation back to the children's home. God has blessed us in so many ways. And then here's another whole deal, because we built the other cottage homemade, a nonprofit put together by the Home Builders Association, said, well, we want to build you a house. So they partnered up with Lennar Homes, with the national home builder, and they built this house like for $300,000, but it's worth probably 1.2, 1.3 million. And I'll show you some pictures inside of it. They told me, they said, here, you know what, after we got it done, we have a model house. We want you to get all the furnishings and everything that you want. So we were able to furnish it inside with all of the furnishings. And that's how God just blesses us and how people get involved with us. So anyway, we are in need of set of house parents. If you know anybody that needs a set of house parents, would like to come to work for us, we'd love that. So anyway, that's a quick rundown, real quick. I think I'm going a little over, but anyway, thank you for.
Thank you.
Any questions I'm glad to answer any questions afterward or in between here. So thank you so much. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.